You're live, Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm just waiting because it takes ages to click in. Hello, welcome to this live with me, Charlotta, and Tricia from Creative Costume Academy. Today we're going to talk about fitting our vintage drafting systems. We drafted last month on Tricia's channel. We're going to go through fitting order, also what methods we use and how you can transfer these fittings to your pattern. I'm going to get Tricia on now and she can introduce herself and then we can talk about our pattern. So hello Tricia.
Hi, Charlotta. How are you? Hello,
I'm all
everyone.
right. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I'm excited. We're both wearing our shirts that we've done. So, and hello to everyone. If you guys are here, let us know. I don't know if I'm seeing comments. Wait, maybe I have that. There we go. Laura
Yeah.
T says hi. Astrid, hello, hello. Oh, Jan's here as well.
Hello, all
Um,
our lovely ladies.
yes. And for those of you who don't know me, my name's Tricia, owner of Creative Costume Academy. I call myself your pattern nerd friend. And I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about the shirt and the fittings and the adjustments and all of that too.
Wonderful. It's lovely to have you here on my channel. This
Yes.
month, last month we're new. So if you haven't met me, I'm Charlotta from the Charlotta's Pattern Cutting school. And I actually put both our links in the description if I haven't done so yet. I have, I think. But yeah, so today I'm going to actually stand up so you can see it. We are going to talk about, yes, Tricia. Actually, I'm going to try
my
to.
version.
I'm going to try to get Tricia in here. There you go. You can see Tricia. The Tricia is all like quite very glamorous. Is it a silk, Tricia?
It's not. It's I don't know. It's like a rayon, I think.
Very nice.
It's just metallic.
Yes.
And I do like it. I was looking for something with a stripe, but subtle enough that it wasn't going to be super bold. But and I love this fabric. I like the look of it, but I forgot because it's got metallic threads in it. It's a little bit itchy on my seams, but other than that, I really like it. It's comfortable.
And I'm going to show you mine again on the full screen.
Yeah.
Show off. And mine is like these are both ours. In Tricia's case, it's your finished garments. And me, it's a sort of second mock-up trial. Maybe I'm going to use it as a garment. But these are not our trials or mock-ups. So if you're wondering why we have no pins or anything, we actually show you the finished garments. I'm actually going to put Tricia on the on the big screen again. And the first thing we wanted to talk about is how we actually what fitting order we did for this specific garment, because of the vintage style and the grown-on sleeve, it's a little bit different from other garments. So we wanted to run you through the order, and I'm going to change while Tricia does it.
Yeah. So, with this style of sleeve, which is a little bit different, and I'll share with you kind of my initial fitting order, how I like to do things. But if you want to learn more about my particular fitting method, I do have a special boot camp happening next week over at, if you visit anywhere to find me, you'll see Fatabulous Fit, and we're sharing in detail the order and how I like to do fittings. But this particular garment is a little bit tricky because the sleeve is all attached. It's not like a set-in sleeve, so you kind of have to go top down in a way, or deal with the biggest issue that comes up first. For me, and I think Charlotta was the same, when we got to this point. Do we want to talk about this like fitting when we got there, or the pattern alterations that we made to begin? Because we both looked at our pattern before we went into the fitting.
Yes. Yeah, do you want to start? Well,
I can start with, I'll say, even though I did make adjustments, and maybe we'll get into that when we talk to our pattern, we did compare our slopers to the draft to make some initial adjustments. And so I kind of added some in my sleeve because looking at my measurements, I was worried the sleeve was going to be too tight. I noticed on paper that the front was really wide, but I was like, maybe I'll just see how it goes when I mock it up. And then I added a lot to fit my back. I didn't have enough room in the back. So when I tried this on, it was really, really wide and kind of had no shape. It was very boxy. And then this dart, I have a dart here. This dart was like way back here, and not really in the right, like it didn't really shape it. It kind of created a weird pucker. So I started looking at that, but you have to be careful because it is still wider. But I tried taking it in and making it sit more like in my sleeve, but when I did that, it seemed to pull away this way. So I generally, when I'm doing a fitting, and I know Charlotte and I were just chatting about this, when I'm doing a fitting, I use safety pins so that as I'm moving and trying things out, that nothing's going to fall out. So what I initially did was, that was the first thing. I knew I had room here, and actually my sleeves were a little bit big when I first did it. So I just started pinning in different areas, and then this was a little too big, a little too wide, so I pinned it. I like pinched out a dart, in front this way, and went up to my sleeve point, because
So like a small bust adjustment, isn't it?
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, making a small bust adjust. So just taking some of the width away, and I knew that I could go up to this seam here, and I tried maybe going all the way up to because I have a top seam, and I left mine. You left your sleeve all one piece and just a dart. Is that right?
No, sorry. I have a top seam as well.
Do you?
When you draft it literally just has the dart for shaping. I mean,
Yeah.
you can the extra seams. But like you, I added the top seam. Because it gives you more shaping options, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I left the rest of the sleeve in one for the 12.
For mine, I did actually a 2-part undersleeve, but when I corrected it, it's all one piece.
Yeah.
For me, and length. The original draft was to your natural waist.
Yeah.
But I knew I would never wear anything that short, because these are even like my high-waisted pants. So I added like 3 inches in length on mine, but I left a little vent there at the side. And then I also took it in. So I that first thing, that was the biggest thing, was it's wide and it felt weird in my arms, and it felt like it didn't fit here. So that was my biggest problem. So I took that in, and now I can't do it because now it's fitting. But I took a big dart, like a small bust adjustment, like you're saying, but I went all the way up to this seam.
Yeah, I did.
And then I extended my dart. I actually just extended it longer to come more to my bust point. And then I took and because my sleeves were kind of big, I took it in underneath here so that it gave me a little bit more, it hugged in my bust a little bit more and gave me more shaping. But I have enough room back here. And then like I said, I was like, maybe I want this to sit more here. But when I had it pinned, and that's what I do when I'm fitting, I'll pin things and I'll kind of wear it around, but see how it's pulling?
Yeah.
Doing that, and I just didn't like that.
Did you do your dance on Instagram?
Of course.
Yes.
There's a new video of it today. And that's what I always recommend when you're doing, and that's why I like doing it with the safety pins. You pin it how you think. And I wore it around. I did my computer work, and I was thinking of you the whole time with your grown on sleeves, that you have to be able to do that. I was like, I can do that comfortably. So yeah. And then I dance, I'm like, what would I do in this? Am I comfortable? And it was pretty comfortable at that point. So I was happy with it.
Yeah, and talking about how Tricia uses safety pins, I just use normal pins, and then I do some very careful movement yoga. So I do a full movement. But I'm going to show you how it looks.
Yeah.
Like. This is the working 12. So it's a right mess. But yeah, look, mine is even more extreme, because these are the waist, and you can see actually there's my rib cage. This is sort of where my rib cage ends. So it was quite interesting, because of course it's done for 1950s measurements, right? And people would have been shorter. like I'm quite tall for 1950s, and I'm not that tall for now. So it's quite interesting how it because it's drafted to your measurements, but of course it's still a sewing pattern of its time. So yes, and both Tricia and I used our slopers to check it too. But of course, if you don't have your slopers, you can sort of check it to your own measurement and factor the ease you have in a normal sleeve. So that's what we cheated a bit, because we could see it wouldn't fit us. But then I did. You can see my front was too big as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
And actually, and it's had like a sort of slightly weird balance. And we're going to look at Anne's later. Hello, Anne. I've seen you in the chat already.
Yeah, hi, Anne.
So we're going to look at them later. Because you have a slight balance issue, same as me. I think mine, once I started pinning out, it got better. But when my back was really tight. So I then...
Yeah. That's funny that you experienced that too, because I did as well. My back was really, I mean, I changed it in the pattern before, but it was really small. And then on the pattern, the front was really wide for some reason.
And what was really interesting is on here, this whole section looked really short as well. So again, that means there isn't actually, it looked out of balance. And that's sort of, when you've done some drafting, you can guess it.
You'll start to see it.
Yeah. But you can tell what I've done. I just need to check which one is the one I fixed. I fixed my left arm. So you can see it's like with my left arm, I can go, sorry, this is,
yeah, more
this, but with my right, this is sort of all I can do. And from the back.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So sometimes if you pin out, then you can just pin it out. But what I did where I had to add on, I actually put a piece of fabric underneath and then pinned it on.
See.
You're literally enlarging.
Wow, you're so
quite subtle.
You're so brave with all those pins.
I know. But you could do with safety pins, or you could actually quickly stitch it with a big stitch. But that actually lets you allow, like, because you can guess how much you need, but that way you can actually work out exactly how much you need to add.
And that's what I always recommend, is that you do it until it feels the way. If you have to add in extra fabric, or if you have to pinch it away, do it so that you can actually feel how much you need.
And you could see I didn't have the seam on the back, but I actually split it open and then open that armhole at the back from all four sides and just add that bit extra.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because yours was, you have more volume than me underneath your arm. So yours is more a dolman sleeve, while mine, I think I checked my raglan sleeve against it. So mine is slightly more fitted, I think, than yours.
It might be. I did take mine in under the arm.
Yeah.
From how it was drafted. Yes. Because I had to add a lot to get this to be wider. So I added under here in addition to my center back. And when I did that, there was just not, I didn't need it. And so I did take it in a little bit under here, but it still is, there's still more room there. Yeah. But taking that in a little bit helped with the shaping. It wasn't so like a box. Yeah. Like, cause the edge of my front is here, it's very wide. Yeah. Whereas my armhole is really here.
Yes.
So I kind of wanted to bring that in here, but like I said, it caused different problems. Yeah. Just, I think, from how it was. I could have maybe just changed my seam line and added that space to the sleeve. I didn't think about that, but I could have done that. Just move the seam.
Yes.
But it was more wide. It came like straight down from there, and then I took it in a little bit.
And when you're fitting sleeves like that, this is basically a raglan sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a really low raglan sleeve. So it's all about, basically, if you make it the sleeve coming out to square, you get lots of sort of excess volume up here. Mm-hmm. But if you make it too tight, you get the beautiful shoulders, but you won't be able to lift your arm. So what you actually have to do is, sorry, one of my lights just fell, but you do a lot of fitting around this line as well. So quite often you want to sort of make things tighter, pinch it out, But did I do it? Or did I, yeah, look, you can see I added a little bit
Yeah,
more
of shape in
volume
there.
there, and that
Hmm.
actually gives you a better fit, which is weird. So it actually
Yeah.
allows the sleeve to travel down your shoulder, and you can see it sort of it's slightly, well, doesn't look better fitted on here, but in real life it looks like it's basically allows the sleeve to sit a bit better when I have my arms down.
Hmm.
Actually, now you can see it. He
Yeah,
This
you can see
one,
that drag line there.
yeah, that's more like a dolman sleeve. Like it's too far
Yeah.
out, but this one
Yeah.
fits really nicely when the
Yeah.
arms are out. So it's these are sort of all this with these raglan sleeves or grown-on sleeve or gusset sleeves because they're connected to your bodice. So it's different from a normal satin sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and somebody was just saying, somebody just sent me
Branolin.
that, yeah, Daily says average female height in 1950s was 62
Inches.
inches. I'm not very good with inches. And she's born in the 80s and she's 59. Also, you're actually shorter. So swings the other way. I know I'm the same height as my mother, exactly, and she was born in 44, and she's average height and I'm sort of slightly short. But yeah, it's which country, you know.
And then I'm crazy tall, so
Yeah.
especially in the
Astrid is
1950s.
5'2". There you go. So Astrid is petite as
Thank you.
well.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Astrid.
Yes. But it does affect things, isn't it? But even like this, what did surprise me, and I think it surprised you as well, how wide that front was. So it was for
Yeah, the
really,
wide was really
but I
or
have
the
a
front was really wide.
very deep bust start as well.
Mine was not deep enough, but
Oh,
I think it was because of it being wide. Like, I can show you. Do we want to look at the pattern itself
yes, let's
before we
do
go
that.
into Anne?
Yes, and then you have a look
Because
at the pattern.
I can show you what changes I
Oh,
made on the pattern a
sorry,
little bit better.
Astrid is just saying she's 5'10", which I thought because I've seen Astrid and she looks tall, and 62 inches is 5'2". So that is quite short.
Ah, I see.
Like, yeah. But yeah, all depends. But it's for French. It was a French drafting system, so it's um, the sort of big bastardness that surprised me because you sort of think. But do you think?
Yeah, I think it was maybe just it's a balance thing because what I'm thinking is we used our bust measurement to draft this up. And so I think in circumference wise, the bust measurement might have been fine, but it was all in the front and nothing in the back.
Yeah.
So you could kind of see on mine, I didn't take any out of my front early on except for this. This was that dart. Maybe I put it over here. This was that dart that I pinched out.
Yeah.
I just like closed it there. And that was my original dart, the red, and I actually extended it to the blue. I didn't take more in here.
Good.
I just extended the dart point
Yeah.
a little bit. And then but on my back, the original was here, the red, and I added what's on there to the center back, and I also added over here.
God, that's a real difference.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Because comparing it to my sloper, that's how I came to that.
Yeah.
And then I also added more to my back neck. Like it's almost an inch. I'd say like 7/8 there.
Yeah.
To my full back. And then down here at the waist, it was when I was straightening it out, it's like a little more than an inch down here. So I added quite a bit to the back to get mine to fit.
Yeah, mine wasn't. But you know what? I can't remember. I think I already, when we were drafting it, I already changed it to my own back. Because
And
I
did take
whole
this in. I took it in a little bit at the sides here. Yeah. So it was quite wide in the, but that's what I think that maybe circumference wise the whole way it might have worked, but it was all in the front. So I knew that it was going to give me problems in the back, having, especially these sleeves, giving extra room.
Yeah.
And then we both did this where we extended the front, right?
I copied you.
So the way it's originally drafted, and I don't have the draft here,
Yeah.
but this little tab is meant to be sewn in, I guess, so that's how they have you draft it. But
But Tricia,
we opted for an easier thing.
if you put the image back on, I don't
Yeah.
think I've got it on my iPad. It's really, but I find quite interesting. You can see it's quite baggy around the lower, like the under part of the sleeve.
Here.
Yeah, and it actually looks like it's tucked in, doesn't it?
I know. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I was surprised that it was so short. So
yeah.
I
So
guess it's just supposed to be there.
maybe it's supposed to be really boxy or something, like like a tucked in blouse.
If it is, though, you'd have to add some length. I mean, I added 3 inches to mine. I
And you,
think it went to my natural waist, but it was a little shorter than my natural. I would say it's about an inch shorter than my natural waist, and then I added the 2 inches just to add extra length to it.
And I think it's quite a mystery how it's, when you were sort of like, because it's an illustration, you'd like to sort of see how this
Right.
actually 50s, isn't it? And see, or 40s even. And
then I did add this cuff.
Yeah.
Which I used this reference a lot, when trying to decide, because I was going to make a shaped cuff, but then I saw that her stripes were straight.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no, that's got to be straight. So I just made a straight. This is actually my cuff pattern that I have on my top. But those were the main things. The main thing was I added a lot to my back. And I did check my see, I started originally with my undersleeve being 2 pieces so that I could make some adjustments, but I ended up it being 1 piece.
So I'm going to talk people through mine as well. And Astrid is saying, as you already mentioned, the pattern itself is French, and I think it's intended for a very young woman. So straight up and down body shape. Yeah, it sort of makes sense, but it's still weird how much volume there is, because I'm pretty much straight up and down to my hip. But I think you're right, the balance is wrong. There's like so much up here when the back is actually really fitted, isn't it? Like the back, if the front was as fitted as the back, it would be a fully fitted garment.
Yeah.
So there's something like a weird balance going on. And these are the most.
And then Heather Mack was saying that you added makes such a big difference. So Charlotta, you added a small wedge at the top of the sleeve. You it was more towards the back, and you did, like where the shoulder was, right?
I will show you in the pattern now. So yeah, I basically I show you on the trial quickly. I'm gonna turn around and I think it's coming undone now, but it's basically like a star shaped. So I use this because that's where I had the most strength issues with movement, and I have quite a broad back, I think. It was that point where if I put my pattern on now, it was basically, that's my back. It was that point where the raglan joins my back. So it's all to do this, but basically the back was a bit too short for me, the armhole, and it was also a bit too tight, the back width. So you can see I've added 0.5 centimeter here, and I added, I think, 0.5 centimeter in height as well. And then I also made the whole armhole 0.5 centimeter wider, so more movement. And that's all to do because with your raglan, I'm going to get my half sleeve to show you.
Yeah, the little outline isn't super precise, Astrid. I agree. And that's the thing is we'll get to talking about the design variations that we kind of decided. But at a certain point in your fitting, and I'll let Charlotta talk about that more, but we are talking about movement and balance to start, but then at a certain point you can go into design, and that was something that played a big role for me too, is where did I want my stripes to be, and how did I want that to look in the final garment.
Actually, this is really interesting, because if I would draft a raglan, and if you're my membership, we got to think at least one raglan drafting tutorial, lots of gusset tutorials. So if you want more of a sort of in-depth, have a look at the membership tutorials, because there's lots. But if I could draft my raglan sleeve would be more like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a lot more fitted. But can you see, I've got a lot of room here, which I don't really have on this one. So this is sort of, and that's what's causing the issue, that basically it's tighter, narrower back. So that's the sort of thing where it's quite, it was actually easy to fit once you know what the issue is. But I think if you never draft a sleeve like that before, you'd be like sort of maybe make like trying to pull it up and stuff like that. I mean, of course, everything worse, because that's what you always think. Oh, you want to pull it up, and then it makes it worse.
You actually want to give it, change the angle of it,
or like add some volume to the top or something. Because then of course the whole top will. If you add volume up here, the whole thing will drop down, but it still be too tightly fitted, just lower down. So it's sort of slightly understanding how the angle affects the fit. But yes, have I added basically sort of radiate? Actually, I think I just made the whole back but sort of 0.5 centimeter wider and 1 centimeter longer for the armhole.
Anita's bringing up a good point. She said she just joined, and we haven't mentioned that yet, but she's asking why your shoulder is so slanted. I hadn't noticed mine.
No, you're right, Anita, because look at this. This is how my block was.
Yeah.
So in the end, Anita, when we were drafting it live, it was so wrong. Basically, I couldn't piece it together at all. I tried. Like, it was so different from my own blocks, but I just went with the
to see what would happen.
the drafting system. And actually,
you know, mine isn't quite that sloped. I wonder why.
Yeah, I think I did something wrong, but it was basically, it all went a bit weird when I was doing it. But amazingly, if I show you, Anita's just joined, but if I show you the
it doesn't look that way on you.
No, I think this is a block which, because I've got newer blocks, but they're not on cardboard yet. This is slightly wrong for my, maybe I've lost muscle or something, but I'm basically, my shoulders aren't the square anymore.
And I don't know if Anita knows that this came from a draft that we were doing, so it kind of was telling us where to plot points when we were doing it.
So Anita, we agree. The drafting itself, you can watch it on Tricia's channel.
On my page, from last
that
month.
was super fast. It took, I think if you hadn't done it live and commented, it would have taken 10 minutes. But it's like drafting your own sewing pattern. So
they're still needed. Well, and also we discussed this too. This is kind of a tricky This is a tricky pattern to start with. You know, it's got these different. It's a raglan sleeve. It's a different sort of shape, and there are simpler designs that I think may have been more successful.
Oh, and we've got a few more questions. Anne is saying, how do you manage back adjustments on your own, even with 2 mirrors? I find it hard to see what's going on. It is really hard. I used my experience. So I knew it was pulling. So I cut it open a bit and see how it went. But it's like, you can't really see.
I think it's a matter of taking stuff off and putting it back on, you know, trying things. Like Charlotta obviously didn't pin in that extra fabric while it was on her body. But she knew that's where it was pulling, and that's what I kind of, you know, I'll do it in the mirror and I'll kind of like give myself an idea, or if I have a mock-up or a muslin on, I can use a pen and kind of like that's kind of where I want it to go, to tell myself, and then I take it off and pin in something or base something in and then try it back on, and it's a lot of on and off again when you're doing it by yourself. For me, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't. I think the easiest if you actually use your camera and screen it on.
True, taking pictures of yourself as well.
But it's quite hard. It's by sort of knowing the fitting principles underneath it, then you can sort of guess where the issue is. Where it's causing tension and stuff like that.
And Daily Sews and stuff was saying that the 50s was the bullet bra era, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Maybe it would have fit that differently.
Yeah, I could. This is late 40s, isn't it?
Well, it says it's 50s. 1950s.
Yeah, is it 1950s? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it could be. It's better brass than me and Tricia.
Yeah, don't quite have that
Covered
going on.
brass, yes. And Astrid is
Maybe.
saying, as I started playing with the pieces, I was very tempted just to start from scratch and recreate the concept with my blocks. I would, if I think, but we both know, Tricia and me, we love to draft our own. So I would use an image as an inspiration, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely we wanted to try this out and give it a go. And I was telling Charlotta as well, we have tried some other patterns for Miss Depew, and I'm using them for some costumes right now that we're working on. And they're much, it's not a raglan sleeve, it's a basic pair of shorts and a bodice, and it's going together a lot cleaner and easier than this pattern. I mean, we've got this little tab here in the front, and there were some interesting things with this draft that I think maybe threw it off more than something that wasn't as complicated. So I think it's maybe up
I
to what you're drafting.
Yeah, I think it's great, that system, if you're a beginner, because you can basically do your
Mhm.
drafting, your sewing patterns to your own size.
Mhm.
You don't have to trace it all through, and so I think it's really good for that. I think for something as complicated as that, because even if you draft your own, you would sort of experiment a bit with the fitting.
Yeah, and playing
Yeah,
with it,
I
making
think it's
adjustments for
pushing the
sure.
system to its end, because even the illustration looks like it's not fitting that well underneath the sleeve. So
Right. So do you want to talk about at what point in the fitting you moved to making design decisions,
design,
and
yeah,
what design decisions you've
yeah.
changed with your look?
I will make myself on the massive screen. And then we have a look at Anne's photos as well.
Yes,
I
yes.
talk about that because Anne, thank you for sending it to us. I've got it in the
So Astrid, you did draft it up. Have you made it to a
no,
mock-up
I
point?
think she's tempting to do it, she's saying.
Mm.
And Claire saying, is the block drafting video still available somewhere? I'm new to Charlotte School. It's normally, I do like a special offer where you join up for a year and you get all my blocks included. And I've just done it, but I can send you emails. So we can sort something out, Claire. Okay, so let's talk about design. Actually, Tricia, can you show everybody your neckline? Because that's what I changed.
Sure. Yeah, you changed. So this, and I can't do it because the button's sewn, but one main thing that I changed that I started to talk about on the pattern, it looks like you're supposed to, okay, camera, you're supposed to sew that into it like as a seam.
Yeah.
But I looked at that and I said, that's going to be really tricky to make that look nice and clean. So I extended my front and made this more like a tab. But I kept with the original, so it kind of angles in, and then this goes straight up and down here. I did a 3/4 inch extension past my center line so that there was an underlap and an overlap. So that's how it was drafted. I didn't change much other than that. And then
I'm
Charlotta did something a little different, I
Yeah,
think.
I'm actually going to show you my final one rather than the trial, because in the final one it's more obvious.
She's changing.
Yes. And you're saying it's really cold here still, so I was wearing my coat before we went live.
Yeah,
And
she had to
for
she had
fashion,
to
I had to sort of,
layer down.
it's like these photo
Um,
shoots where the models are freezing.
so in order to do this, speaking on the design level as
Yeah.
well, like whenever I'm doing a pattern, I'm thinking about how it's going to be constructed, and where did I want my stripes to go. I still wanted to keep this seam. I did the undersleeve as one piece. And I kept kind of more with the drawing, but I also knew on the drawing these stripes were straight, so I knew that had to be the straight of grain there, and my center back was also straight, so that had to be straight up and down there. So that kept me with how the grain was going to be and how the pieces were going to be situated. And then in order to do this tab, and for the fact that I have an overlap, I created a facing which goes all the way up to here, and then this tab was faced, and then the back I also have a facing piece as well, just so everything here was clean finished, and I was able to interface those areas to give a little bit of extra structure for putting it together. And that was all added in. And then this cuff, that's on the picture but it's not given in the pattern. I played around with doing a shaped cuff off of the sleeve, but after looking at the picture, again, I was letting that dictate what I wanted it to look like. And you can see the stripes on that picture. Of course, it's just an illustration, but I like to go as close as I can, but the stripes are straight on that. So after I had drafted a curved cuff, I went back and I'm like, well, that might actually make this kind of stick out a little bit like I wanted it to in the sketch. So
No, I
just
really love
a rectangle.
a really nice finish to it. Yeah.
So it's just a rectangle like this with on a fold. It's a very simple piece.
Yeah.
But that didn't come with the pattern. So
No.
those of you who are doing the pattern, and for those of you who are interested in doing this draft, we got this from Miss Depew.
Yeah.
And she has some really lovely patterns on there, and it's a really easy system to use, similar to the Luderlo system, but it comes with different rulers. But that's what we're talking about.
It's a good way to try out the drafting system, because it's like a tenner, so it's really cheap.
Yeah, it's like $8.
Yeah,
I think it was $8 or $9 for this draft too. Very inexpensive.
So Tricia with her garment stayed really close to illustration, because of course normally Tricia works as a designer, and you have what you make.
Yeah, I'm so used to like making it exactly the way it's supposed to look. Somebody else is telling me.
That's really good. So you with stripes, everything has to match. But I basically, my designer.
She went rogue.
I'm used to telling people. And basically, this mine. So if I have to pull all my tops and lower, I've got very high bust. So with me, just looked. It was because originally it was like this. So it looked very narrow on me. So I actually changed the angle so it slightly opens. And I also made it a lot higher because it was this low.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. It was
my
very
bust
low
point
on you.
is here. So I'm not 100% sure. I was talking to Tricia. I extended my button stand across, so it's like a panel. But I actually think it makes it look too wide. So I think I'm gonna go back like Tricia has and actually make it a button stand again, which will be. I think it will break up the stripe a bit. So and then of course you can see I decided to use a chevron stripe and just have some fun with it, which meant my front is actually on the bias.
Yeah.
And my back is on the
I love the way it looks in the back. It's really nice.
Yeah, and I like the thing is you can never. It's very hard to line up your.
Yes, on the shoulder.
Can't line up your whole shoulder, because if I put my pattern on it, they basically have completely different angles.
That's what I did check that on mine, because I was like, if the front is, even with the front and center back being on the straight of grain, they're different angles. Because look, when you tweaked it there, it looks like they line up a little bit better.
No, but they're always different angles. I think that's quite normal, basically, for your front and back to be slightly different angles. But these are more, when I draft my own, the difference isn't that much. But they can be,
because when you if the front, this is my back is the straight of grain, and then this is my front is the straight of grain. Mine are pretty, they line up pretty good.
So much, yeah. Maybe let's do again with how I drew it. Actually, but now the straight of grain, they are the same. Look.
Yeah, I thought so when you were looking at it.
But then if I line up the shoulders,
and then if you line up, if I lined it up down here where those stripes would match, the angle of how it goes up to my shoulder is different, but my front and my center back are still straight of grain.
Parallel,
So that was something that I checked, though. I had to correct my back. My back didn't originally come out that way.
No, that's perfect. But it's like always when you draft your sleeve from the shoulder point, you basically can't match up your whole sleeve, so you have to find a point to match it all up. And Anne says, do you have to make adjustments to the shape of pattern for cutting and bias? So my top is still the same, the top half. The bottom half, I use like a cotton, so you have to find out. I mounted it on some other cotton, so it's fairly stable. And if you made it out of a silky fabric on a bias, you definitely have to make adjustments, but it will also collapse. I don't think it would work in a silky fabric. But mine is quite stable, but I think you could have issues with it dragging down. You'd have to sort of experiment, but you might be better off actually having the chevron coming all the way to the center front and then just having a really narrow waistband. So I think this only works with quite stable fabrics, and I wouldn't expect, or you can mount it as I did and then interface bits as well to stabilize it. So we just have Kate from Project Patterns. I have just done lots of lessons on really silky bias. So it's like,
yes, I remember. This is a good class.
So shall we have a look at
at Anne's? Yeah, let's look at Anne. So Anne actually did this along with us, and then she sent in photos of her fitting so we could take a look.
And Astra did the pattern and like a paper trial, and then just the same as us had like issues with fit and just and
Anne did also. Didn't you draft it twice, Anne? You did it once and it felt like it was too small, which is, I think we all experienced that. It's just Charlotte and I used our slopers to adjust.
And I think also it's like I went up to like 2 centimeters in the measurements chart because I thought it was easier. If it's too big. Like I was
to make adjustments.
But I think it's Diane. She's saying you both are so skilled. I would like to see you draft it without the guide. Seems like you did a lot of work. Yeah, we should do it again. It's another challenge how we actually draft it ourselves.
I'm doing it with the sloper.
Yes.
Anne said she was between sizes. So did you do the first draft with the smaller size and then the second draft with the larger?
Yeah. Okay. So that's with the larger size. And I think the smaller size with sleeves are really, really tight. So it was distorting everything.
Yeah.
So you can see it's a little bit too big. And you can see, can you see my mouse moving?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I can't see anything now. Sorry.
Oh no, because you're on the computer. Yeah, we can see your mouse moving up and down.
Yes,
you're pointing out the drag line from it being a bit too wide.
Yes. So that sleeve, I think it's just a bit too wide. So and you can see the drag lines here. So I'd be interested if Tricia agrees with me, and you can see the same here. So if I'm going to, I'm going to put myself big for a second. Sorry. We got too much. I think what Anne needs to do is basically, I had to add a bit extra. I think Anne has to pinch out
take it away. Like do the opposite of what you did.
Yes. So basically where your point is where your shoulder would normally finish on a satin sleeve. That's where you basically have to pinch in and out a little bit. Yeah, I'm just thinking that's what I would do. Yeah, so you have to experiment because
it would maybe make your angle of this. Yeah, would it probably straighten it slightly. Maybe it's a bit too sloped if you pinched in. It depends on how, if you go all the way down or if it's just an angle change, more at the shoulder and less. So this piece, like we're saying, if you pinch it in here, in the front and the back too, it would see how that's changing the angle of the sleeve. Mine I think is good, but maybe yours is more angled. Yeah. And by doing that, it would change the angle of the sleeve in the front and the back, because I think she had. But if you went straight throughout, then it wouldn't so much. And I think that, I wonder though, because she might need that extra room in the back. But I bet she could go all the way straight down in the front.
Let's have a look at the photo again. Let's see. There we go.
Anne was saying she thought she needed to pinch there. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just looking at it. Looks like the drag mark. It's either because you don't want more. You can see there's just too much stuff happening. So too
much fabric in there. But go to the side. We did take a peek at these earlier because it seemed like there was more fabric in the back on the sleeve part, and just in that area where you are
now. I'm looking again. It's either you actually need to pinch out, or sometimes with these I'm gonna put my sorry, at this stream, it's slightly confusing how it all works. You basically either need to pinch pinch out, or
Right.
I'm actually going to cut my pattern because I can glue it back on. Or counterintuitively, you might actually need to add a bit extra there, because it's sometimes quite hard to see this.
But go to the side again, because
Yeah,
I think that
yeah, it's because there's lots of volume
see
underneath.
there's extra fabric in the back, but it's kind of like it needs that in the front. I wonder, because I see that her top sleeve is all one piece. I wonder if you might need to make different adjustments in the front to the back. Like,
Yeah, I
it
agree.
looks like you need extra room in the shoulder on the front, but you actually need to take some away in the back.
Yes,
Weird.
but in a way, if you were drafting with yourself on my membership, what I would then actually do is, sorry, driving you mad, the layout, is to actually, but at the moment, like, because you got lots of volume down here, so I would actually make it more like that. So you get a better fit around the shoulder, and then it's tighter fitted down here. So it might be that. It's quite hard, Tricia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and Anita says, and Anita is very knowledgeable as well. She says she thinks a shoulder slope course.
Yes, they're rolled forward.
Let's have a look, because it could well be Anita. And let's have a look at Anne's pattern from the shoulder, how her shoulder looks like on the. Have you got one with the arms down the front? But what Anita's saying, that could have to do with the angle of the sleeve as well. So let's have a look. But her shoulder slope looks quite straight compared to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's actually a much straighter shoulder slope. Yes, but I think it's that. I agree with Tricia. I would start at that point here where your satin sleeve is. Oh, and now Heather is saying, Anne, do you have a forward-leaning bone-shaped shoulder? I do, and I have difficulty with fitting sleeves.
Yeah, Heather's my girl, and we've worked with some raglan sleeves in knit and kind of done some adjustments in there too.
Yeah, and Anita's the same. She's got forward shoulders, and I've got somebody else as well, who I think is quite common. And I think it's
very common because we're all like this all the time. So over time, we've all rolled forward slightly. Yeah. So and maybe the draft doesn't really allow for that. But I would start by trying to pinch out some of that, and maybe even to see it on the mock-up, if to test the theory with Charlotta is putting, cutting along where that shoulder is, just similarly how you did it, Charlotta, and pin in some fabric there.
And you have the front and the back, and both sides equally. And I would do one like this and one where you pinch it out.
Yeah, and see how it feels.
That will completely change the angle. And once you're happy with the top shoulder part, you might have to then pinch out volume down here as well. Mm-hmm. Because if you add volume up here, your sleeve basically gets more fitted to your body, which means you will probably have too much
fabric
volume down there. Yeah. But
hers didn't look as wide in the front as it looked like on ours ended up being.
Yeah. No, it looked. I can share again.
It fit her pretty. It fit pretty nicely. You don't have to share that.
Let's have a quick look at the. So the back looks tight, the same as ours.
Yeah, it looks smaller.
And let's have a look where I got the front.
And there was an angle thing we saw at the side too.
Yeah, the front looks quite big as well, same as ours, doesn't it? And you got this is quite weird how you got a tail here. Like I would be tempted to square this out. But this is what's weird with the drafting system. I had issues with that. I had to just.
I'm still here.
Completely. Oh, have I gone?
No, I'm here. I got a call.
Okay.
Of course. Anne said she added to the back, so you added as well.
Yeah,
I'm seeing that a little bit there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the front.
The front doesn't look too bad though.
Yeah, the side, I think that's like I would sort of balance seems to go up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it needs to be dropping. But I think it is 90% it's that shoulder section where something basically isn't working.
Yeah.
So there needs to be some
Yeah.
pinching. And Anita is saying, okay, so Anita is saying, I find it with forward shoulders, you're more narrow through the chest and wider through the back. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
yeah. So you need, yeah, it's really tricky to fit. And Heather is saying yes, and I think your mock-up from the front looks very flattering. Well done, kudos.
It does.
It's really, yeah. It's just that shoulder. It is quite hard even when you're drafting your own.
It is. It's tricky because you don't, the reason that we on a set-in sleeve, you have that sleeve is because there's different, it's just like pants, right? Going into the crotch, you have so many things are coming together in that area. And so if you're trying to marry them in and have one continuous piece of fabric, then it can cause some
and
problems.
normally when you do your own raglan or gusset or Gorman sleeve, you work with already like your perfect fitting armhole and your perfect sleeve. But here we don't actually know how it would have fitted as a basic garment.
Yeah.
So I always think you're really blind with sewing patterns because you know what the sloper is like.
Yeah, you don't know what they're starting with to begin with. And one thing that I know that we mentioned in the draft when Charlotte and I were drafting both of these was that the right angles, we had to be really careful about where our right angles were. And like I mentioned, when I was looking and deciding how I was going to construct this, I was really paying attention to how the stripes were and where I wanted those to go as to determine my grain and where I was going to keep seams and where I wasn't going to keep seams. But that's definitely something to check. I mean, it was fun to play around with. I think that for a first pattern, we're experienced, so we knew what to kind of change up to begin with. But if you did want to play with them, like I said, we're doing 2 other patterns and they've gone together pretty nicely. So it is still a fun system to use, because basically what we're using Miss Depew's for is it's more of a standard block shape. And then you could maybe get used to how if you're making general adjustments on just a basic shape, maybe it would translate into something more complicated like this you could be aware of.
Yeah, I think I would definitely start with some easy dresses. I like to try the shorts.
I had my girl Crystal do my shorts. I haven't she's drafted them for me, but I haven't tried them. I haven't done the mock-up yet. And so she's coming to my boot camp. Yay! So for anyone who doesn't know, next week I'm hosting a free 5-day fitting boot camp where we go in depth into how I would tackle a fitting. It's the same method I used for this, and making the adjustments and kind of what I'm looking at as far as an order. This top is a little bit different, as we keep mentioning, but there is a standard order and a standard way that I figure that out and translate it back to my pattern and doing all of that. So if you've interest in fitting and learning more about fitting, please join us. It's free. You can sign up at bit.ly/fitabulous, like fabulous, but fitabulous fit.
I will put it in the description. It's on your Instagram. I'll put it in the description.
It is, It is on my Instagram.
Yeah, and you are,
but it's free to join.
Fitting, so it'd be fantastic.
And we only do this a couple times a year. Don't worry where you are. You get emailed the trainings in the morning and you have that time to go over, but we do offer Q&A sessions every day during the 5 days to ask questions and for me to go over in detail what we're learning. And so cool. I'm glad that you're going to join, Anne. It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. So
good. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And it's like one of those sessions. Normally we're like quite clear. This was more like, ooh.
Where are we going to go with this?
Yes.
Did anyone else have any other questions about this draft or the fitting or anything, how we arrived at the decisions that we made or anything like that?
And we'll be back in April again on Tricia's channel. And
on my channel. I think we're going to discuss fabrics. We do have a date. I have it here.
Yes, let us know if there's any specific. We thought we actually talk about fabrics for this top because when we can talk about things like facings and also And you're
Yes.
doing your fabulous boot camp. That's for a blouse, is it this time, Tricia?
We walk through, actually we work in half scale. So it's we work through the whole process on a half scale bodice to learn more about the process of how you go from a pattern through the fitting, and making those adjustments. So it's in half scale. But then I offer tips as we go along on how you can apply it to ready-made garments or using commercial patterns, using that same process. So we stick with the same little patterns so that we're making the same adjustments, because it could be wild. There's millions
Yes.
of different fitting adjustments and way things can look differently. Yes, we'll be on my channel next month, April 27th.
Same time, same day of the week.
Yes, only will have changed by then. You guys changed on Sunday,
Yes.
so that was tricky with the timing.
Yes, so it'll be 8 and 3 again. Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, it'll be 8 and 3.
Yes. And we got one question from I'm gonna call, I think it's Diane by Diary. Would you just do
Diary.
it? Oh, she's saying, so would you do it again? What do you think? Labor intensive experience, or would you just do it with your blocks? I think Tricia and I love our blocks. So I'm speaking for Tricia now. She might not agree. A style like this I would do for my blocks because of the fitting.
Yeah.
If something like Tricia is doing like a simpler dress for other style.
Yeah.
These are fun to try. I think it'd be really good if you're, for example, making bridesmaid outfits, and you need to do the same dress in 5 sizes, or
Yeah.
do like a family outfit where you're all wearing the same version of a dress.
I agree. I think with this style, I would have probably started with my blocks just because of how unbalanced it. But honestly, I just like to try different methods to see how they work. And I really enjoyed trying this as a method, but there were a lot of corrections to this particular pattern. I am enjoying trying it on other things. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's pros and cons to
Yeah.
each, I think.
But for example, if you never block, this is a really good way of getting sewing patterns to your bust size, and you don't have to trace through big patterns. You just trace out yourself. So it's like it takes 10 minutes to do a simple pattern. So it definitely works for certain.
And Heather's saying that you'd love to see how I changed my facings on the tab part. Maybe next time.
Yeah, how about we do like a session on details, Tricia?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
We can talk about fabric as well, but sort of like how.
Yeah, we can talk about
the facing, because I did the same as you, and the facing was a bit like, ooh, it was a bit tricky, wasn't it?
It was a little bit tricky. I didn't even make facing patterns, so I'm very lazy when it comes to facings, because I'm like, I don't want to trace off more patterns. But yeah, we can talk about the details and go into the fabrics for sure, Heather. I can also explain it more too. She's one of my sew stars, so she gets extra attention.
We share Heather. There's a few
we share Heather.
The people who are properly dedicated.
For sure.
Anyway.
Well, thank you for joining, everybody. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, next time it'll be over on my channel. Creative Costume Academy is my name everywhere. I'm Creative Costume Academy over on Instagram as well. And Charlotta and I, we're kind of going back and forth every other month. We do these live events, usually the last Thursday. So if you've enjoyed this, stick with us and hang out. And if you have any suggestions of what you want us to talk about, we love hanging out with you guys.
But for now, that's it for us for today. Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us and doing some fitting, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Bye bye.
Bye everyone. Thank you.